Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure, and we are back on the burned up gas leak TRX 250. Anyway, I've been thinking about this rig and what my channel does and what you guys do and may want to do. And I was thinking I was looking at this thing the wrong way. If one just says it's dead, what's the value of the parts? It's dead. What's it worth? It's worth what the tires are worth, what I can tear off of it, right? And then I'm thinking, if it's rolling and this one rolls, that makes it a little more valuable because I don't have to carry it everywhere I need to take parts off of it. And then I thought to myself, you know what, for a lot of people, especially if you're a kid and you don't have a lot of money, or even if you're an adult without a lot of money, if it starts, runs, and moves and it's somewhat reliable, you got most of what you want in an all-terrain vehicle. Perhaps the electric starter doesn't work. Perhaps it's not the prettiest thing in the world. Maybe it has no brakes and no lights. But once again, when you give it a kick or a pull, it starts right up and it's running. You hop on it, you pop it into gear, and you're out riding, right? I mean, that's most of the value for a person who just wants a beater all-terrain vehicle, right? I mean, obviously, if you go from there and you add brakes, and you add electric start, and the battery charges, you add lights, you add fenders and racks, and then if the fenders and racks are mint, and the frame's mint, and everything else, you work your way up to 100% of the value. But I'd venture to say, from dead to starts, runs, and moves, probably for what a lot of people are after, that's pretty good. So given what I just described to you, I decided to do a couple of things. You guys watched me make this really fancy carburetor intake manifold. So I put that on there, and I put a PZ30 on there. I also put the battery jump box on it. And I tried feeding power from the back end forward. I basically hooked up where the battery hooks up. And they must have blown the fuse or something back there. So the next thing I did was I unburied the wires for these lights that he put on it. So if you turn on the jump pack, you can see both lights turn right on. That's a good thing. And if you turn the on switch now, right? So now the lights are powered, and you could actually reverse and you could power up the all-terrain vehicle this way. The starter solenoid is out and the starter is dead and it's missing the gears, so there's, I can push this button all I want, it's not going to do anything. So anyway, I'm happy the lights work, I'm happy the neutral switch works, and by the way, even the reverse switch, there you go, see, red light's on for reverse. So the electrical system is partially alive. I guess I'm going to call it alive enough for now. You guys didn't get to witness it, but I used the Kickstarter, which seems to be functional. And you see it came in just under 60 psi. I'm going to loosen up the valves a little bit. Already got these loose. Just to see if we can't improve this a little. I mean, it's pretty loose already. Here's the back one. Listen, back one's kind of very loose. But I'm going to loosen them up just a little bit. Meanwhile, on top of the engine looks pretty clean. What I could see, you could see that one cam lobe there. It's better if I turn it like that, kind of to the right. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to loosen this up. We'll do another compression test. We'll see how she comes in. So I loosened up the valves. Easy enough to do, by the way. You just, this outer 10 millimeters of retainer, you loosen it up, you spin this outward, and then you make sure you got them nice and loose. So these are slappy tappy loose. Let's see what the compression comes in at. So I loosened the valves up, and I definitely have enough compression to get it started. These things run a little low until they fire up and, you know, get some oil running through them and all. So next thing is the spark. So I hooked the jump pack back up because I couldn't get spark otherwise. And you guys could see the system's powered up, so to speak. The green light's on. And if you do that, you can hold this nice and steady. You know, we're using the old Ryobi electric starter. You can see we have a nice spark going on there. So, I got the carburetor on there. I checked the oil. The oil is good. So I think we're getting to the point where we can give this thing a kick over, right? Got the throttle. Yeah, let's see if we can't get this thing to fire up. Okay, I think it's ready to go. I smashed the carburetor onto it. You know, you turn this on, you get the neutral light, you get the headlights. I put the carb on it, put some gas into it. I got the starting fluid. I'm going to give it a little hoot of that because I don't want to be kicking on this thing for the next half hour. We'll see if it starts up. And if it does, hopefully there's enough. I'm going to be standing on it because I got to kickstart it. I'm probably also going to pop it into gear, see if this thing will move, and we'll see what happens. Here we go. Boy, this thing, it just keeps getting better and better. Look at that smoke. Now, does this thing need jump pack to run? I guess not. Ain't that just purty? I had a friend of mine one time, and I've told the story before. He bought an auction MG, and this was back in the 70s. It was probably like a 1972 vintage, really nice looking car. So he bought it, and because it was an MG, and back then they were kind of valuable, he paid a lot of money for it, and it had an apparent electrical problem. The fuse box burned up. I mean, it was notably charred, like this thing was charred. So he buys the car, he gets it home, he fixes the fuse box where the fire was, and he fires the thing up, and the engine has a really, really bad knock. When he bought it, he pulled the dipstick. The oil looked good, nice, fresh, new. So he said, oh, I'm in good shape. And turns out the engine had a knock. So he he redoes the engine at a great expense. And at this point, he was upside down with the vehicle. He goes to take it out on the road. By the way, the knock was really bad, like throw a rod bad, so he couldn't drive it. So anyway, he takes it out on the road, and he realizes the transmission has a problem and the rear end has a whine. So here it is. He hit the trifecta. What appeared to be just a fire, which this one appeared to be just a fire, right? I mean, the starter's sitting right there. You know, turns out it was the fire. It was the starter with all the starter gears, including the one-way clutch, so the engine completely has to come apart. And now that we got it running, it smokes. Boy, this thing turned out to not be what I thought it was. Did I get ripped off? No, thank God I got 4 good tires out of the deal. If I were a kid and I was going to drive this, I mean, theoretically, you could put a little thicker oil into it, though the oil looked pretty good, pretty fresh. You could put thicker oil into it and get it out there. Maybe it'll settle down after it rides a little bit. I don't think the fire did enough damage to it to hurt the oil or anything, but I mean, it was slightly seized there. Maybe it's going to settle down, and it'll smoke a little less. But with the amount of smoke this thing is putting out, quite honestly, it's kind of hard to run away from the cops, right? If you're out trespassing somewhere, riding on some rail trail or water right away, or across somebody's backyard, I mean, they're going to be able to see you a million miles away. You're like leaving smoke signals, right? And they're going to know exactly where you're going because they just have to follow where the smoke is the thickest. So anyway, I'm going to do okay on this. I mean, between the LED lights and everything else, I'm okay. But this is going to have to become parts. I was hoping for more than that, but it really has to become parts. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you learned something from it. It's really very, very hard, like my buddy buying that MG, right? You have something that's burned up or some other very apparent situation, and it's hard to figure out that there's perhaps mechanically more wrong to it than that. And it's hard to figure out, even if you figure out if something mechanically is wrong, that you don't have a wear issue. I haven't taken this thing out for a ride yet. I noticed the shifting feels very, very sloppy. Very sloppy Joe there. Just mush. So, but it did seem to move, but it could be, the rear end could be a screamer in not a good way, or a grinder in not a good way. And God knows what's going on with the front wheels and the rest of it. So I paid parts for it, and I got parts. Once again, I was kind of hoping for more than that, but such is life. Anyway, I really, really want to thank you guys for dropping by to watch this video. Before I completely say goodbye to this thing, or take the wheels off or anything else, turn it into a no longer moving all-terrain vehicle, I am going to get it out for a ride. I just need to fit a gas tank on it and kind of sort a path on the way out. So we'll get a ride out of it, and we'll learn a little bit more with that ride. But in the meantime, it is what it is. And I want to thank you all for dropping by to watch and comment. I love all you guys that have subscribed. Keep coming. Please, thumbs up, thumbs down. Let me know what you think. Take care now.